so I'm Rian Luke. I run my own video games recruitment agency. Started in the middle of coronavirus.
Yeah.
And I mainly specialize in programming recruitment myself. It's just where my knowledge is. And then I've got Tim, who works for me, who does all the creative side of stuff because he's a very creative guy and I'm not. But yeah, that's basically who I am. I also collect Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
Something that I started documenting as well.
Yes. We'll talk about Pokemon cards. But to mention Tim's actually been on my podcast 2 times as well. He's a really good guy. Tim Wood, if no one knows who he is. Awesome guy, good friend of mine as well. So I'm super chuffed when he told me that he's going to be working with you. I was like, dude, this is awesome. Because you're both super uber computer geeks anyway.
Yeah, he's awesome as well. Like he's so handy to have around because my spelling and grammar is awful, and he's a copywriter, so it's just handy to have him on hand and go, hey, can you sort this out for me, or can you make sure I'm writing this correct? He's also a lot nicer than I am, so sometimes I'm very blunt and very harsh, but he calms it down or stops me from jumping too far with what I say. So it's quite nice to have him around.
Yeah, Tim is very Jedi-esque, isn't he? He is a Jedi, I think.
Definitely.
He's balanced with the Force. We met each other through a little group that we've got called the Recruiter's Arms, and you were working for someone. I won't mention who they are. It's up to you if you want to mention them. And we got to know each other through that, and seeing you on this journey, especially 2020 being, in my words, an absolute crazy year for everyone. But seeing you on this journey is extraordinary.
Yeah, I joined the Recruiter's Arms in January as well. So it was January time I joined. And I worked at an agency. I've been there 6 months-ish. Yeah. I might as well go over my kind of recruitment background. Really,
let's go over your CV, shall we? Let me get it out. Let me print it off.
Yeah. I only got into recruitment 3 years ago. I was an insurance broker for 4 years before that, and then
you were an insurance broker?
Yeah.
Who do you work for? Do you mind me asking?
I worked at a couple of intermediaries. The first one was bought out. They originally owned by Vitality Health.
Okay, I know Vitality. Yeah,
got bought out. So there was a broker under them called Insure Your Health. Got bought out, became Leopold Health, and then closed down 4 months later. And then I joined a smaller one called Savvy Health. That was set up by some people that used to work at Insure Your Health. And then I got bored of sales, like getting the bank details, forcing it down, like trying to sell it down the throat. So I started to look for a new job. And I thought maybe I'd go into B2B sales instead of B2C. I was on holiday in Poland, came back, handed in my notice, went for a couple of interviews and went for one at a recruitment agency for a B2B electrical job.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was trying to set up a job board in my spare time as well for Sheffield. That never came to fruition. It's just there in the never.
I think it's there on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah. And I went for this interview, started chatting away to him. The director used to work with some people that I worked with at Insure Your Health. And he just came in and said, hey, you're really technical. Like, you know your stuff about... like call center, because it was a call center recruitment agency that these guys were. They're like, call centers because you've been in them for 4 years. Would you come and recruit for us? And I told them my commissions and how stuff weighed up before.
Yeah.
And I said, look, I have to do senior. I can't do call center agent after call center agent. Yeah. It's just not my style anymore.
And the churn as well in that kind of marketplace. Because I remember when I was a student, I worked in the RAC down in Bristol. I saw a new face every day coming through the business.
Yeah, exactly.
It's extraordinary.
Exactly. And so they were like, we'd love to have you teach your recruitment. How do you feel about it? I was like, I'm trying to start a job board. This is perfect. I could learn so much. The director had actually set up a job board years ago and sold it. like helped us and sold it and made a fortune. So he knew all that and he was really interested. So I went there, and they were a small agency, 11 people. When I joined, everyone was pretty much call center agents, like volume 30, 40 agents a week. And then there was me and the director that did senior placements, but I basically started to take off all the senior placements from the director. So I did everything team leader to everything else. I did HR professionals, jewelry, like we just ended up getting jobs from random places. So I did people like appraised jewelry. I did like web developers, just wherever I could get work, I took it. Just because to me, it was like the commission was like, so I just liked the thrill of getting a placement. I got like, I think I did 20 grand within 3 months of starting.
Wow.
For a call center as well, where the average fee was 2,000 to 5,000.
Wow.
But yeah.
That's extraordinary because most, well, from experience being a business manager running teams, 20 grand in a few months is very hard to do. Very, very hard.
I don't know why. I just sat down and I just had so they made me do call center agents for like the first week to teach me how recruitment worked and how to approach people, stuff like that. I remember sat down and I was listening to everyone talk, and I just was like, right, I've used a script for 4 years for cold calling. That script can be adapted. Like, it's my script I came up with. It could be adapted to speak to a person off a job board who don't even know who I am.
Yeah.
And I just used that and got like a person booked in for an interview. And then I thought, I just want to, like, all I'm looking for is people who are similar to me, because they're call center agents, they're good salespeople. And it was just kind of made sense. And then when I moved on to the senior stuff, that was really, really interesting. And I learned so much about the fundamentals of recruitment there.
Yeah.
Because they've been doing it 30 years. Like, they knew everything about like setting up a recruitment agency. They knew all the basics, and that gave me such a good foundation.
But also, setting up a recruitment agency is very similar to setting up a desk as well. So when you set up a desk or you get anyone new coming into your business, that knowledge and thought and support is priceless. Where a lot of agencies go wrong is that knowledge is lost through promotions, and people have come in and the business, rightly or wrongly, has been successful and has lost that knowledge on how to set up a desk. So having people above you that know the pains and problems of setting it up, that's important. I find.
Yeah, I agree. And it taught me so much. And I'm still really good friends with the director there. I speak to him. If COVID provided, once this is all over, I'm probably going to play a few games of blackjack sometime.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still like, they gave me such a good foundation. And my first year I built 105,000.
Wow.
My first year of recruitment.
That's brilliant. That is really good.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So never done it before. Like, just kind of, it clicked to me. It just made sense.
What was it that made sense? What clicked with you then? What kind of brought you into it and made you perform?
I think it was the fact that I know. So when I sold private medical insurance, I always related to this because it's really easy for me to relate. Is I took the information of what somebody had, what conditions they had, what they were paying, and I then went away, searched the market, and came up with a policy that was better for them. Recruitment is the same concept. It's, I'm paid this much. I like this about my job. I don't like this. This would really interest me if I could get this. And then I went away and I had a job that matched, or I knew I could get the employer to do those things. And that was all recruitment was what does somebody want? What can I give? And how can I match the two up?
Oh, wow.
And that's how I saw it. And that's literally how I saw every role, is like, I've prided myself on always being able to get people a pay rise, which pay rise doesn't necessarily mean they're on 75,000, they get paid 80,000. If they're moving to somewhere that's 50% lower cost of living, but they're taking a 5% pay cut, they're still
making 45%. Yeah. It's about understanding that, though. You've got to understand the candidates, because a lot of recruiters I've come across in my time, and you speak to some people as well, they fundamentally missed the costings of the candidates. I mean, I'm working a role at the moment, And the client has said to me, look, it's 10 grand less than the market amount. So I don't think I'll get anyone from the aerospace or someone like that.
Yeah.
When you get speaking to candidates, they turn around and say to you, well, I've got no mortgage. I'm at a point in my life where I really don't need to be earning the bigger money anymore. I'm happy to do a smaller level role. And people are like, what do you mean? That's weird. Why would you do that? I wouldn't do that. Don't put yourself in that position. Let them tell you what they want and then work with that.
Exactly, and it's asking questions and just finding out so much more about the person. Like, it's really all the stuff I learned in old school call center sales just made me a recruiter. And then because I did consultative sales, it was like my average PMI call, my fact find was 15 minutes to an hour to find out everything about them, like their medical history, everything like that. And then your pitch is anywhere between 15 minutes to an hour as well, because you're going through. So I was so used to that style of calling and speaking to people anyway. So going into agency, it was kind of like that. And the agency I worked at set really good targets. So they had a target in mind for me, which was I blew past. And then they always set a target that was hard for me to reach.
Yeah.
And they realized that, which they don't really set. They never really set those targets before. The resources there didn't have targets.
Yeah.
It was like a rough idea of how many they need to get. So they did a really good job at that and taught me how to do that. So yeah, first year there, I got sent on a couple of training courses by, I think somebody as well, Warren Kemp.
Oh, yeah, I've come across him on LinkedIn. I've never met the guy, but yeah, I've come across him. Yeah.
So I did a retained and headhunting search with him training course, and I did a candidate sourcing training course with Sarah Good.
Another name I've heard of,
yeah. So she works with Warren, and they both, so I met Warren, and I actually arrived on time, but the other person was late. I can't really moan at him. He's recruiting in America on probably millions a year now. I'm connected with him on LinkedIn. He just moved out to Chicago. So he's, but I had a bit of time to chat with Warren, and he asked me a bit about what I do and my experience and like what I'm recruiting. He goes, I don't really know what you recruit for, but I think you'd be a really good specialist recruiter. Just something to think about. And I think you'd be really good at senior appointments, and this headhunting course will work well for you, just from chatting for an hour or so while we're waiting for this other guy. So I left with that training course, which Worker paid for, and I was kind of thinking, right, I need to start thinking about this, because I always had in the back of my mind, this is a small agency, and they've always said to me, I'm going to leave. They said, you're going to leave within 2 years. Literally a week within me starting, they said, you're going to leave within 2 years because you're going to want more.
But yeah, exactly. And that's the problem with a lot of agencies. They recognize that people are not going to be with them for long. It's transitional, a lot of the jobs in agencies.
Yeah.
In agencies. And that's sad, because I think longevity gets you credibility, I think, in a job as well, especially in recruitment. That's one thing. Being in business on my own has got me now, because of the length of time I've been doing it, it's got me some really good credibility with companies and people.
So I started to look elsewhere, and I got an interview with Video Games Recruitment Agency.
Yeah.
I kind of set my heart on that. I love video games. I found them on LinkedIn, actually. Somebody posted something, and I saw it had like Pikachu. It was on Pancake Day. It was a Pikachu, like Sword Art Online, which is one of my favorite animes, like picture. And I was like, oh, that's a recruitment agency that's posting that. And I was always pushing, let's post not weirder, but more engaging content on LinkedIn. And this post had like 300 comments, loads of likes. And I was like, I clicked on there, found out it was a video game recruitment agency. I was like, right, I want to work there. I really want to. That is what I can see myself doing. Like video games. I love it. When I first started in recruitment, I messaged everyone on LinkedIn I could find who worked at a game studio, asking how to get into recruitment at game studios, because I just didn't know. I look back on those messages, I feel sick. When I look back at them, they're so cringe.
God, give us an example. What did you say?
So I messaged the woman who owns Team 17, the guys who made Worms.
Right.
And I said, like, me thinking game studios are way smaller than they are. They're not these massive, like, huge companies.
Studios.
Hey, massive fan of Worms. I think, like, thinking she made Worms. She didn't. She's just the owner of the studio.
Doesn't care. Yeah.
I really would love to get into video games. How do I do it? Please tell me. So that was like weird. And she never responded. She never read it.
Well,
but yeah, that was like back in the day. So I interviewed, and they said, "Hey, we really think you'd be good for programming desks." Now I'd done a little bit of code recruitment. I did like CRM developers, web developers, that kind of stuff. Which is just quickly on web developers. My favorite job advert I've ever wrote is I got a spec from a client that lived in worked in the same building as us. And he goes, "I need somebody who knows about Google conversion pixels." And I'd never heard about this before.
Nope.
But the advert was web developer. And all I put as the advert text was, "Do you know what a Google conversion pixel is?" I don't. If you do, you're probably right. Please apply.
7, 4, 1, 2, 4.
So yeah, I went to this video games recruitment agency, and in that time where I was waiting to start, I had about a month. The old agency I worked for sadly closed down.
Yeah.
But they kind of set up again, a much smaller size. They're doing really well now. Especially in COVID, they got a lot of work doing the COVID response.
Oh, wow.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, they're doing well now, but I kind of realized that I kind of got out at the right time. And then I joined this agency, and I was of the wrong mentality when I went there, because my entire career up until this point was so competitive. It was like, I have to be the best. I have to outbill everyone, and I'll tell people to their face I'm better than them.
Okay.
Which, yeah, I was an idiot, especially after a few pints. I openly admit that. I was very loud.
What was? Do you look back at it and kind of understand why you were like that, or?
Yeah, I think it's just so. We as a family as well. Play the violin music. My mom's a salesperson. She sells luxury holidays.
Oh wow.
So when I got my first commission statement, my mom showed me hers.
Oh,
and we get
right.
this. I've always been fueled by that competition.
Yeah.
And I don't get me wrong. It's made me better. It's made me as good as I am.
Yeah. Because
of that. And that's always been my goal, is to reach what my mom is billing or making. And that was really motivated me and really pushed me forward. And I thank her for doing that, because she could have gone, "Well done, son," and just been like, "Yeah, I got my first commission statement." But it was like, this is what you could be doing. And it just pushes me on.
It's good. No, it's
it pushes her as well. So
I bet you're now nipping at her heels. She must be super proud you set up on your own, though.
Yeah, that's probably what I like. Well, I'll get into that in a second.
Yeah, we'll get it.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting take on how that happened as well.
So you entered this company doing games industry. Senior appointments, was it, or were you looking at other levels of roles?
So anything like mid-level to technical director, so
right.
Director level. So I went in. Really loud, like, I know I'm a good recruiter. I've been told by everyone I'm a good recruiter. I didn't really interact with many other recruiters other than the one. Like, wasn't part of the RA, the recruiters' arms. Sounds like a military force when you say.
We do, don't we? Yeah.
I wasn't like part of that. I didn't really speak to many other recruiters. I didn't really engage with them, just because I didn't get some of the stuff. I just kind of did the job, if that makes sense. I didn't understand the ins and outs. But then I read Mitch Sullivan's on recruitment.
All right. Okay.
Educated me a bit. I started to understand a bit more. Started engaging with more content. Spoke to people like Tim, is it Tim or Tom, who does the Hunted weekly Friday fix?
Tom Philby, or
the other Tom?
The other Tom.
The other Tom at Hunted. Started speaking to him, and he was saying, "Look, you've got a knack for writing. Maybe you should write some more content on LinkedIn."
Wow.
And Dan Kessel as well said, "Look, I think you've got a bit of a knack for it." Like, spoke to these, and they're great people. Like, they're great people to learn from.
Super cool
So
people, really are.
yeah,
Yeah.
really cool people, really authentic as well.
Yeah.
So I started writing a bit of content, and I hadn't made a placement at this point, but I was just writing stuff about video games that I loved. I just love video games. This whole arm is covered in video game tattoos. You can't see it because I got a hoodie on, but like literally covered in video game tattoos. So I was just writing content about what I enjoy. And then a programmer reached out to me who was a lead. I won't say the studio, so I obviously don't want to give where he was working. I said, hey, I'm thinking of moving to a different country, back home. I want a remote role. Is there anything you can do to help?
Yeah.
And at that, I got my first placement within a month, and it was an 11 grand fee, which was my biggest fee I'd ever seen. Like the highest I'd done before was 7, and that was money laundering people for a casino.
They weren't people money laundering, but they were just
like fraud checking,
anti money laundering. Yeah,
anti-money laundering.
You weren't recruiting for the mafia. I wonder if there is a recruitment agency that does mafia, but
probably. So yeah, I got that, and it just snowballed from there. It just like the games like I pick up knowledge relatively quick, and like programming. Recruitment is really complex, so I just simplified everything in my mind. It's like, right, this is what these can also do, and this is what these can do, and just focused on quality over quantity. So about 6 months in, I started to speak to yourselves, Tim Wood, who works for me now, started doing content, started getting to know other recruiters, and I was posting some content that was a bit against the grain, and it didn't quite match up with the agency I was working at's vision of how they wanted to represent themselves, which is fine. I understand that. And I kind of talked to a few people like yourself about it. And then came the conversation of, have you ever thought of starting your own agency?
I got a funny feeling that was me that might have said that, by the way.
Yeah, I think you said it. You was like, have you ever considered starting your own? Because you seemed like you were always on LinkedIn, your recommendations are through the roof. You're like, you're doing the job and you're doing something good. And I think you said it, and I was like, oh yeah, but I don't really have the funds to do it at the moment. Maybe in a year, maybe like however long. I had Tim Wood every time I played video games with him saying, start your own agency, because he was working for himself at the time as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that was kind of like everyone around me was encouraging me. Spoke to my parents about it, and they was like, no, like you've only done it for a few years. Maybe it's not the right choice yet. Maybe you should spend more time learning. My girlfriend at the time was of the same mentality as well. Can
I touch on that? It's really strange. I had at the point of starting my own agency 10 years in the game, and I still got those people saying the same things, except for my wife. My wife was the only person that backs me. She said, "You just do it. I know you can do it." And that was if I didn't have her in my corner, I don't think I would have done it. It's because that noise around you. How are you going to pay yourself? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? I'm never going to get a mortgage, and here I am sitting in my first house that I ever bought 5 years after I started my business shows.
Exactly, it does make a massive difference, and that's why she's probably still your wife, and that's why she's not my girlfriend anymore.
It's true.
It is. Well, and then COVID hit, and this was like I wanted to work from home, and like I was of the mentality of working from home would be awesome. It took us a little while to do it, but we did do it. And as we got more and more into it, I was getting unhappier with the KPIs, the way things were targeted, people breathing down my neck, and it put me off doing the job. Like I wasn't working at my full potential.
Yeah.
And I knew it, and I openly admit I slacked off at the start of COVID. I still did 50 grand. No, I did 30. Sorry. I slacked off though.
It was hard mentally though. We were all looking at it going, well, where's this going? And some of us, like you say, slacked off. Some of us tried to do. It was weird because half the industry seems to have just slacked off but still making money. The other half was working their asses off, long hours.
Not making
any money whatsoever.
Yeah.
It was
And
so strange.
I was hearing how hard like a lot of other recruiters are struggling. People were put on furlough, and I was getting more and more frustrated because I was getting pulled in all these directions by all these clients. We worked with a lot of clients at this agency, and I was like, I can't work for somebody anymore because I already run my own nightlife promotions business. Obviously, COVID, not really doing anything with that.
Destroyed that. Moment. Yeah.
Yeah, destroyed it for now. We'll bring it. We've been doing events. We've been doing sit down events, so it's still ticking along. Obviously, we can't now. We're in tier 3 lockdown, so we no longer can. But it's been ticking along, and I already ran my own business on the side, so I was kind of thinking, that's doing all right, and that's doing all right in a year. Maybe I could live off that if COVID wasn't here. I didn't really have any savings, and I was kind of like, I just need to go now. If I stay here any longer, my mental health was on a downturn massively. I was in a little 1-bedroom flat with in an unhappy relationship, and we're in the middle of lockdown. I needed to change something,
but it was a scenario we were all going through where things had changed drastically. That straight away changes your mind. And if you're not happy, the amount of people I know that are going through divorces, I'm having a baby in January.
Oh yeah.
you know what I mean? So my life has changed this year. We've completely gone a different direction, but the things that mean something to you, you run towards and want and grab. And that's, I think, what you discovered about yourself, what that thing you were running towards was now.
Yeah, it wasn't even like a monetary thing, I don't think. It kind of was. It was more of a...
But that's the potential, though. The money thing is, this is what I could potentially win.
Yeah.
But this is the bit I really want to do.
I just wanted to be a better recruiter. I didn't feel I was being the best recruiter I could.
Yeah.
I wanted to offer a better service, and I wanted to do things differently. And I think the more and more that part of me started to take over, and it does when you're in lockdown, when you're at home and you haven't got a manager in the office, you can kind of you can say something to a candidate or a client that you wouldn't normally say in the office. And
then you get a reaction. And you get that reaction where you're like, oh, that's an interesting reaction. They talk to you differently. And it's weird, isn't it?
It was a bank holiday in May, and I woke up on the Monday and I was like, I can't do this anymore. It was a Monday bank holiday. I was like, I'm not happy. I can't work here anymore. Nothing on the company's fault. I think it was just my personal view on it. It was like, I need to do something different. I need something that's inspiring me, because right now I'm struggling.
You've changed. That's what happened. You changed. And
I changed a lot as a person.
Yeah, and then the world doesn't look right then when you've changed. It's strange, isn't it? Now you need to align yourself.
Yeah.
Or the world needs to align to what you want, I think is the right way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I spoke to kind of what I consider like kind of advisors, but not on like a level, a massive level. I spoke to a very senior, respected person in America who works in games, who works inside a studio, and he was like, "Do it, just do it." So I went in the next day, went into the office, even though we're not really supposed to go into the office. But my manager lived like 2 doors down from the office, so he was still going in every day.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I went into the office, handed in my notice. I didn't tell my parents I'd left. I only told them when I made my first placement.
Wow.
So I was like, oh yeah, I quit my job a month ago. I've made a placement. And like, that was like my mentality with it. Because I was scared if I told them, they would start panicking. And I hadn't seen them for months at this point, because we've been in lockdown. So
wow, so maybe lockdown might have been a good thing for you mentally then, not to keep it a secret. I know that sounds crazy saying it like that, but
the only people who knew were other recruiters. I didn't tell my friends. I didn't tell anyone until I'd done it.
You told us. I know that much.
I told you that. I'd say I told other recruiters, but I didn't tell my friends in my personal life. I didn't really tell anyone. And like, until I knew that I was okay. and I would be okay. And then I got another role, filled that relatively quick, and it just snowballed. It just kept snowballing, and more clients got in touch. I was off the fortunate position where if I needed to, I could undercut big agencies. Like, I generally work at 20%. That's like my rule of thumb, is 20%. But smaller indie studios that aren't making as much money as these big AAA studios, I could be more flexible. Yeah. I could be more understanding, because all the money at that point was going to me. And I started to get more and more roles, and I was like getting really, really busy. And Tim reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm looking for a change of pace. Have you got anything that will suit?" And at this point, I'd only done programming. That's all we had done was programming. But the studios were starting to ask for art and design. Yeah. But I didn't want to I did one art role. Like, I got lucky. So I was like, I need somebody to look after that for me. Otherwise, I'm going to lose out on business. So I brought Tim on board. He came up to Sheffield. This was August time. He came up to Sheffield, and I gave him a crash course on how I recruit, which was like a lot of drinking. At the start, we went for a few drinks, and just because I'd never met him in person, so it was like, get to know him. Went for a few drinks. Like, we spent a couple of days working. It was, when it was boiling hot in August, like sweltering, like greenhouse weather constantly. So we was in my 1-bedroom flat. He had a desk in the, I think I sent you a picture of it.
You did,
yeah. He had he was sat at my dining table in my
I might dig it out. I might dig it out for the podcast, actually.
Yeah. And I was sat on the sofa on my laptop because I wanted to be in the same room as him, working with him. And I gave him a crash course. We got this one role from a client. And then I went on holiday to Greece like a week after that. Just because.
Yeah, I remember.
My first
we were doing Zoom calls. This is really, because the Recruiter's Arms do a couple of WhatsApp calls and a few, not WhatsApp calls, what's it called? Hangouts. That's it, Google Hangouts.
Yeah, Google Hangouts.
And there's all us, like, at home, kind of worried about our future. And there's Ryan on the side of the pool.
My phone
right, guys, how you
doing?
Yeah, your phone overheated.
I have my sunglasses on as well. I was like, hello.
Yeah. We're all there swapping stories, and like I'm giving advice, and you're there going, yeah, hang on, just go turn over for this side. It
was a much needed break. I think it came about. So what's interesting about that is, at the time I had billed £45,000 at that point.
Amazing, absolutely.
But this was now a month and a half into the business.
Yeah,
none of my fees had came in yet, and I'd run out of money.
Run
out, and I was like eating, like I was working out how to live on like £5 a week, basically.
No,
but I didn't tell anyone I'd run out of money. I just kept to it. I was waiting for these fees, and I went to. So
this is the bit about running your own business.
Yeah,
doesn't matter if it's recruitment or anything. People don't realize is you've done the work, you don't get paid.
Waiting.
Yeah, you don't get paid for a long time. Everyone talks about retained recruitment, get the money up front, blah 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 blah. That's great.
You can't always do that though. You wait in the notice period of the candidate, which could be a month.
Number one, which could be a month
to 3 months, and then you've got your payment terms from their start date, and
that's it.
So you're waiting for that. And I had some bad advice when I first started, and I didn't set up the proper ways to get paid.
Right.
So
what was? Do you mind me asking what the advice was at the time? Or
it was, use this type of bank account. I've done it. It works. It doesn't. So I had to.
What was it, like a charger bank account and not a proper?
It was just use. It was like one of these digital banks, like Monzo, that kind of stuff.
That type of stuff. Yeah.
Use this. You can accept international payments. I've done it for the last 5 years. It works.
Right.
It didn't. It bounced.
Really? Gosh.
Yeah. So the companies are saying to me, "What? Why is it? The money's gone from our account, but it's not in yours." Blah blah blah. I had to quickly come up with a solution. Now, luckily, I met somebody who was an American over the last couple of months, like in the last month, and they said, "Oh, this is how I accept all my payments from America," and it was American fees I was waiting for. And I was like, "Oh, awesome!" So I set that up like super quick, and like that's now how I managed to. And then I managed to set up a business account properly as well, not
good.
like a proper.
And then you can move in there, and then your accountant can deal with it properly. Yeah,
everything got set up properly. I was also like, I was given basically, I wasn't given the correct advice on how to do things properly, but now I've done things properly.
Yeah, and you where I went, I felt I did really well with starting up. Was I went to a company to help me start up, called SSG, and they did all that stuff for me. All I had to do is sign documents and go to the bank with a piece of paper, and there's my bank account, and you know, they did all my VAT, they did all that website and everything, purely because I really didn't know where to start with any of that.
Yeah.
So
I didn't have that.
You didn't have that, and I think that's the biggest learn, I think, for a lot of people starting up in any business, not just recruitment, but for us recruiters. There's a huge learning gap that we've got to go through, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's like I like invoices and stuff like that's fine. I've done it for my nightlife promotions.
Easy
stuff.
Invoices, yeah. You could do an invoice off Word,
but
you can create a you know what I mean. You don't need anything special for invoices.
Yeah, it was how to set up a business, how to set up your terms. Your terms. I found some example terms online. I was using them for my first 2 months. They were awful. They're actually awful. So I've now got proper terms made that are solid.
You have to pay a solicitor for that.
Yeah, exactly. So
you've got to do it properly. Yeah,
I didn't do that first. I just like got generic terms. I just wasn't. I didn't have that knowledge at the start. I was able to recruit, but that and in my mind, I was just doing the recruiting bit. I didn't want to do the business side of stuff.
That's the hardest part. That's the bit we forget completely about, is that business running knowledge. You know, 5 years in and I'm still learning some stuff. It's
that's why, like, I literally am just trying to pass off. I don't care how much people cost me to do it. Just like do it for me, because I don't want to do it.
Mate, that's the secret. That is the secret. Don't do things you don't understand. It's nice to learn and understand it. I kind of understand how VAT works. No, I'm joking. I do know how VAT works. I don't understand how to submit a corporate tax bill. I'm not even going to attempt to work that out.
I
can do self-assessment, but I still pay someone to do that for me.
Yeah.
So there's things, you don't bog yourself down with these things. Let someone else deal with it. Pay them for it. It's not going to cost the earth to do it anyway. It's only going to cost a couple of £100 max to get some of these things. And focus what you're brilliant at, which is recruiting. Yeah.
I really struggled to get these payments. I had the clients moaning at me. Obviously, I'm a new
clients
business.
Are moaning at you because they want to pay you. What world are you in?
Yeah, I know, it's weird. But I'm a new business, and now they've never met me in person. I'm thinking, do I look like a scammer? So I was starting to get really down in the dumps again, kind of thinking, I can't do this. And one of my friends, bless her, she said, "Hey, let's go away. We should go away. Like, just go on holiday." And I was like, I don't have any money at the moment. I'm still waiting for a fee. And she's like, okay. I sat at home working. She's like, oh, what's your passport number? I was like, huh? Booked us away to go to Greece for the week. So for an all-inclusive. And then I got paid just before we went, like literally. So I gave her the money for that, and I was really, really grateful. But it was a friend going, he needs a break, because at that time I was waking up at 9. I was finishing work at midnight because I was just so focused. And then we got to September. Tim filled a role while I was on holiday, actually.
I remember.
Yeah, he filled his first role while I was on holiday, which was amazing. I was so happy for him.
He hadn't even been with you a week, had he? I think it was
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
So he got the role. So he got the role the week he was with me. He did a week resourcing. At the start of the third week, it was filled.
So 2 weeks, which was in essence.
Yeah, which was really, I was so proud of him. And it was nice to go, right, this work, like, if you do it this way, it works. Yeah. So I came back. We kind of I started to get more and more stuff in. I've partnered with a big publishing giant that we've definitely all played games from. And they gave me one of their really hard to recruit for studios and got the ball rolling there quite quickly. And I filled a few more roles. And end of September, last week of September, I started to look at office spaces, think about how the business is going to grow. And I don't want it to just be me and Tim forever. Like, I want to grow this business. I think there is, I can grow it to something special, not special, but bigger than it is really. And I have a very set way of doing things, not set way of doing things, but a style that not many recruiters teach or not many recruiters do things. And that model can work, as I've taught it to Tim and it's working. He's billing. And he openly admits he wasn't the best recruiter prior to working with me. I was thinking, what can we do? So I was originally looking at small spaces for just me, and I was going to keep Tim remote because he was pretty fine working with that. And as we carried on, like, I went and viewed a few office spaces, some shared workspaces, and I went and viewed one, which is a gorgeous building by the train station. And I originally went to view it to use their shared space because it's got a cafe in, like little booths, all that kind of stuff. So you can make it a bit more private. And he goes, let me just show you some of the rooms while you're here. A typical sales technique. I was like, okay.
Sell you up.
And he showed me a couple on the ground floor. And then he showed me a top floor office for 3 people on the outside. And I was like, I think I'd be way more productive in this room. I think I could do way more work. I come to work to work. And when I leave work, I know I can stop working. That was like, because
that's the mindset. Yes.
At the moment, I'm finishing work, and I take my laptop, I'm watching TV, and I'm still on LinkedIn while I'm watching. And do you know what I mean? I'm not stopping. And I'm kind of did the maths. So I looked at how much I build. I looked at what Tim built, and I did the cost of the business for a year. Which was I don't mind telling this, £85,000 to pay Tim's wage, myself a wage,
all the things that you're going to pay for.
If I got the office space as well, the office space, the accountant, everything like that. And I was like, oh, we've already done that already. We've already done 85,000. So I was like, we're only 2 months in, realistically. And we can now live for a year. If we did nothing for the year, if I just said, screw it.
Which you won't. Which you won't be.
I won't. I was like, I can justify an office now. If I think it's going to make me better at the job, I can justify it. We moved into this office, and the day that Tim was there, we instantly bounced off each other. We worked such a long day, not because we had to, but because
you loved it.
We loved that dynamic. And we just really got along and worked well together. We got so much work done. And that I was like, right, this is a good investment, because all this needs to do is make £7,000 a year. If I make £7,000 a year more because we're in this office, it's a good investment. And that's one of my friends made a joke saying, if you didn't move to the office, you probably would have spent £7,000 on therapy. So
or you may never have made £14,000. Do you know what I mean? So you would have lost £7,000 in some weird way because of, you woke up one morning, looked at the computer, and just went, oh, do you know what? I'm going to call it a day today. And you haven't even, do you know what I mean? Because you're just so, even though you love what you do and you've got loads of work going on, you just justify it.
It's so easy to get distracted at home. That's what I've realised. It's so easy. And I think if I had a house, I had a separate room for my office, and I was going in there and I was saying, right, I'm going to my office. Or like yourself, you're building a shed, is it?
An office, It's like, if you get your summer house or you get a shed and you convert it into a proper studio office, that's what I'm doing basically. But it's from the ground up. That's how I'm doing it.
So I've allowed myself to treat myself to nice newer things and get into new hobbies. So I like building my Gundams. I actually didn't build a Gundam for about 2 years.
Wow.
And I've now got back into it, but I'm buying all the kits that I couldn't justify before. The ones that are quite expensive, I'm saying, right, you can buy them now. And I've reignited old hobbies. So I've really got back into Pokemon and the cards especially.
This is what happened with me this year, by the way. I've reignited old hobbies. I'm playing guitar again. I used to play years ago. I'm back out walking. I've lost a lot of weight. I'm trying to get back into running. When you've been a big guy and then lose a little weight and try to get back into something, you realize your mortality. And I know what you mean. And I think you wouldn't have done it if you worked for someone else. I personally wouldn't.
It's one's the financial freedom, but it's the time freedom as well. I'm valuing my time a lot more now. So, and you can appreciate, like, say if it gets to, and again about mental health, if it gets to 3:00 and I'm feeling shit, and I don't know if I can swear, I'm sorry.
That's fine, swear away.
If I'm feeling awful, I can say, call it a day, do something you enjoy. Because tomorrow when you start, you'll be 10 times refreshed and 10 times better. But you can't do that when you work for somebody else. So I was like, I'm just going to build a model over the weekend. And I'm just going to, like, I'm not going to play games. I'm just going to get and I built that. And on Monday, I was like, wow, I feel amazing. I feel so refreshed. And you can do that, and you can be more flexible, and it gives you time to enjoy things. And when you start your own business, there is the downsides, there is the risk, and there is the things you struggle with, but you can reward yourself in different ways. You can do more things you enjoy. As I say, the Pokemon thing has been a massive thing for me, and it just so happened that the time I got back into it, because I found a bunch of old cards. I was just moving stuff around my flat, and I found a bunch of old cards. I was like, wow, this is really cool. Started to get back into it. I started speaking to my nephew about it, and he got really excited, and I've never been able to talk to him about something and he get excited about. So I thought, I'll start opening the packs and upload it to YouTube for him to watch. He was down in London. So I've started doing that. And then that's then made me go to the shop and buy way more cards and way more boxes, because I'm really enjoying making that content. I've literally got boxes and boxes down here.
Are you pricing them up as well? What you do, going through it and see?
So people said, like, I started doing it. I started to want to do it, and then that Logan Paul. I don't know if you know about this.
Yeah, I know
Logan
who he is.
Paul, bought that booster. He bought like a first edition box for 230,000. Sold the packs for 11,000 each inside. Made 150,000 off that bit alone. Then did the live stream pack opening. But what made it click to me was this really smart finance YouTuber I watch called Graham Stephan. Like, most of my content is YouTube and anime. Like, I like short form 10, 20-minute content. I don't like hour-long TV shows. He says on the podcast that's going to be about an hour long.
It's going to be 4 hours long at this right now.
And he talked about how it's a good investment. So I then got looking, saying, look, I don't have £230,000 to throw down on a first edition. And then still the original base ones are still 20,000, 7,000, whatever. So I was like, okay, what can I afford and what can I look at? And then I looked at car prices, and your chances of making money back are less, but they're still there. They're still there. And you still get the thrill of opening the pack. So I started to do my research, and I bought like some packs in a box. And I opened them up. I started sleeving them, and I Googled the cost. And one card paid for everything I bought, if it's top grade. And I was like, right. And then you've got the other cards which are rare in there, which they might only make you 30, 50 quid more, but you still make more money off it. But I want to look at it from a collector. I like collecting things, so I want to complete collections.
Well, how much is a complete collection of that series then, would you say? Value-wise, not cost to buy.
So there's a series I'm collecting at the moment called Hidden Fates, which has 68 normal cards in it, like 68 cards in the collection, and then about 20 cards that are like specials outside of that collection inside it as well. I would say the whole collection's probably worth about £2,000 to £3,000 once you've got everything.
Wow.
If you go, or if it's all mint condition, and say like
grade A,
top grade, great, grade 10 gem mint grade 10.
Do they do the same as comic books? Do they?
It's PSA that grade them. They're worth a lot. But I spent £120 on 4 tins that I got, and the promo card that's guaranteed in 2 of the tins, if you get a grade 10 of that, it sells for £70.
Wow.
So, and the tins are £30 each. So I'm like, well, 2 and then I got that rare card inside, and that's 150 if it's a 10. So I was like, oh, that's cool. So I started with that, and I opened a booster box. So a booster box is like the whole box. Like, you know, like in shops that they sell them on the counter.
Yeah, and you just grab your
So this is like everything in there. So I opened one of these, and I got nothing really in it. It probably broke even.
Right.
And then I bought some promo packs, and I opened one, and it had a super rare card in it that like is worth like £250.
Wow.
And that was just one pack that was £4. And it was like, this is it. I get the fun of opening them.
Yeah, wow. That's like gold mining, isn't it? You know what I mean? Any moment now, you're going to drop the 10 grand card. You know what I mean?
Well, this box is £120 for everything. So there's 36 packs in here. Yeah. Like of 10 cards each. Normally it's 100, but I got it from a local store that obviously they're smaller, so they have to sell, and I'd rather buy local. But there's a card in here that's worth £500. I just had an Amazon notification. Sorry.
You got more cards coming. He's got more cards coming, people.
So I'll show you.
There we go. There's your collection. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like that random card. These are the ones that sell for 70 each. As I get educated, I get older, it change. Yeah. And I think that's with everything. Again, adapting and improving. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, Mark.
Same here, mate.
I hope people find this podcast interesting.
I hope so too. It's been absolutely enjoyable. What they don't know is that we've actually been here for 2.5 hours doing this podcast. Yeah. They don't know that. They're only going to see 40 of it. So it's all good.
If anyone wants to ask me questions or anything about starting a recruitment business, please feel free to message me on LinkedIn. Yes, I'm always open to share my experiences where I failed, because I've fucked up a lot in the last 3 months, but I've learned and quickly adapted to deal with those situations. So feel free to drop me a message.
And some of those fuck ups we weren't going to talk about, but we both know what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, buddy. Take it easy. Speak to you soon. All right.
Speak soon.